Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Daniel Hammer. I'm President, CEO of the Historic New Orleans Collection. It's our honor to host this ceremony here today in the room that we call the Counting House. And so I will now turn the microphone over to Mr. Don Pearson, who's the Secretary of the Louisiana Department of Economic Development, who will MC our proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you to all the staff that are here to making the available facility for us today to have the hosting of this historic moment for all of us. I'm Don Pearson, Secretary of Louisiana Economic Development, and the agency that's charged with creating jobs and improving economic well-being of our citizens here in Louisiana. Indeed, it is an honor to gather here to witness the signing of this statement of intent relating to a partnership for cooperation of energy and the environment between Louisiana and France. The signatories will be Minister Catherine Colonna, Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs for the French Republic, and Governor John Bell Edwards for the state of Louisiana. All this is being done in the presence of Cabinet Member Coastal Protection Restoration Chip Klein, Mayor Trell, and President Emmanuel Macron, President of the French Republic. So you may now proceed with this historic signing. Thank you. We'd like to take your seat, please, and it'll help with the photography that we're trying to achieve. The documents have been executed. The signatories will now be available for some photographs here. Once completed with the photographs, we'll invite you to join us on the board.
Monsieur le Président de la République française, Madame Macron,
Mr. President and Madame Macron, the Francophone, the French-speaking community of Louisiana is welcoming you. It gives me great pleasure to receive you with one of our oldest songs. As you know, the first establishment in the Mississippi Valley was Natchitoches, founded by a French explorer 4 years before Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne, the other Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne, settled New Orleans. I'm singing it with joy because it is a song to celebrate the friendship between France and Louisiana. On behalf of the entire community, thank you very much for your visit. And as my grandmother would say, now that you know the way, please come back and see us.
à qui je veux lui faire fortune. J'ai que mes dimanches pour aller la voir. J'ai que mes dimanches pour aller la voir. Et par un beau matin, je me suis allé. Je lui ai trouvé sur son lit couché. Dormez belle, sans meilleur vous. Belle et mes amours, je ne pense qu'à vous. Et si que vous avez un habit à prendre, prenez-la donc, couleur des cendres, parce que c'est la plus triste couleur pour deux amants qui vivent qu'en longue.
Thank you very much for your visit. Bravo, well done, and thank you so much. Madam Mayor, thank you for your warm welcome, thank you for having us in this beautiful museum, and now I meant to salute all of you, including the members of parliament, the ministers, the ambassadors, artists, all of you. Let me tell you how pleased I am to be together with you. 1976, the last visit. Some of you remember. It's been a long time. Nonetheless, when I arrived earlier today, I had somehow the feeling that I was at home. Really. In a home that is different, but in the end, at the heart of what I would call some sort of a familiar difference. And such is the feeling I've had since I arrived. It is familiar because this is our language, we have all these bonds. And no matter the treaties, as a matter of fact, Treaty France is only a history. There's only a 50-year period of time that I was referring to, but at the same time, there is there's also this wonderful exhibition being organized at the Quai Branly Museum in Paris, and then this band that welcomed me at the airport. And this familiar difference, as I was saying, this is very much bears witness to what is real. It is an ongoing story. And Louisiana is part of our history, thanks to the pioneers and those who came at the time of Louis XIV, and then came the wars and the decision to sell this piece of land. But in any case, they were here, men and women who considered that choosing a language was a way of remaining faithful to values, to a history, an identity, a struggle. And some white Creoles as well as Afro-descendants who so much love the French language, and also because Acadians in very troubled times chose to come here, and somehow they managed to build something absolutely unique in this place. So if I'm standing here before you, of course, like I said, it gives me great pleasure to be here, but it is first and foremost to tell you that we will continue to defend this language that was chosen here, defended, and on this land where the Council for the Development of the French Language was set up as early as 1968. Well, that is, as a matter of fact, the only American agency dedicated to the French language. And many initiatives were taken. A lot has been done to promote the French language on the continent, but in particular here. And beyond what's been done already for so many years in Louisiana, and which, in a way, is feeding the efforts for the French language all around the world, not just here in the United States as well and on the entire continent. We decided to go further because we're convinced that teaching French is first and foremost about our schools, and for many, learning a second, if not a third language is a must. So in 2017 was a first step when in New York I announced an initiative. And let me tell you something that is very French, is that we take many initiatives for French, the French language, but we do that in English. Don't ask me why. So in 2017 we took the French Dual Language Fund to develop some bilingual curricula in American schools. So 5 years down the road, and thanks to the sponsors who invested so much in hiring French teachers and teaching assistants, we have some 35 pupils thanks to this initiative in 29 states, which is an outstanding success. But we want to do more. We want to expand. And I also would like to thank those who made it possible. But what we would like to do is to broaden this program and start from kindergarten to university. And we want to fight for the French language not to be for the elite. And of course we wanted to remain the language of great American talents, and some of you share their lives between France and the United States, but we also want to make it accessible to all. So that's the purpose of this second French for All initiative. So I have the pleasure of launching, thanks to our sponsors, a new initiative. And let me mention the sponsors: Chanel, Jane and Alfred Ross Foundation, Jeanne Muel Foundation, Société Générale, Hubert Joly Family Foundation, John and Cynthia Reed Foundation. I hope, Mr. Ambassador, I did not forget anyone, and the Ambassador reminds me that this is a call for more sponsors to join. And I would like to commend all the wonderful work that's been done in favor of this initiative we're launching. And what we really want to do, and what, as a matter of fact, very much fits into so many programs that were launched here and have been a driving force around the region, is we want to support the French culture, French-speaking culture, and the language, in order to enable families and kids coming from all around the world, from the Caribbean, from Africa. Just as a matter of fact, life took them to this land, to the United States of America, and we would like them to have access to teaching in French as well. So somehow we would like the French language not just to be taught as we usually do, but to make it some sort of a language of empowerment, cultural, economic empowerment for young people coming from all around the world who happen to come here to the American land. And they too have the right and should have the possibility to have access to our language and to this teaching. So we will also take more initiatives with the universities, and we will make more scholarships available and more internships as well, in particular for the most destitute students. So we will support the teaching of French and French-speaking programs. So we will have a French in higher education program on campuses. We will make resources available so that we have curricula that match the best practices in the country, with 100 scholarships and opportunities of internships in France for the most destitute students, so that they can make the best in terms of vocational opportunities. And next, given that, of course, we need French teachers, and I'm well placed to talk about the need of French teachers. So I very much want an ambitious future for the profession. And so we're launching the new pathways to teaching French. And I very much have a conflict of interest when I talk about French teaching, French teachers. So we very much want to promote double diplomas, and we want to provide 200 scholarships to teach, to train teaching assistants, American teaching assistants, to train them in France. So this is what I meant to present to you today, this new program, which is a great initiative to continue this fight, because indeed it's been a fight. And to conclude, I would like to say two things. One thing about Francophonie, one thing about you. And when I talk about you, I want to mention the way I see the French language. This program is part of everything we would like to do to strengthen the Francophonie, because I'm convinced that the French language is a language of the future, because if you look at demography of many French-speaking countries, in particular in Africa, there will be an outstanding population growth in the coming years. And I'm convinced, as you wonderfully proved here, Francophonie does not belong to France. And as I often say, the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie was invented by heads of state in Africa and in Asia, not by a French president. So in itself, it is a political project of non-aligned country, which is opened. But the thing that we share within it is our language. And the vitality of this language is very much rooted in the men and women who keep it alive, and those who decide to create in this language. And there was a Prix Goncourt, an award celebrating this heritage, and the Acadians, the Native Americans, invented so many words as well. And just like in the Congo Basin today, people invent some new words in French that will add to our dictionaries, and that goes beyond what we could perceive as an academic language. And this is very much at the heart of the French language. We have the French Academy, and of course we love it. But from the very beginning, it was about some sort of a way to control the language. It was some sort of an old-fashioned approach. But the French language has always been a mix of the academic French, I would say, and the local, regional languages. And what Rabelais contributed is very much this very very special language, words invented to qualify, to describe something and Francophonie. The French enabled us to do that, and we should keep inventing words invented by writers, musicians, singers, and the language will keep transforming, developing. This is the reason why I have faith in the future of Francophonie, but with a new phase, that of an opened language, very much in favor and that will strive on innovation of new words. And this is the reason why we decided to host the next summit of the International Organization of Francophonie in 2024, and we'll do that in Villers-Cotterêts. And this I would like to thank all of those involved in this project and all the hard work undertaken over the past few years. And we refurbished the castle of Villers-Cotterêts. So some of you may not be familiar with it, but it says a lot about our history. This is where François I adopted a decree according to which the French language would be that of the French administration in order to unify our nation. It's been a tool of power, but the castle was in poor condition, and centuries down the road, there we are. But at the time, a general, a former slave who was so successful fighting by the side of Napoleon, Dumas. He was the father of Alexandre Dumas, the writer, who then walked all the way from Villers-Cotterêts to Paris when he decided to be a writer. But he was the son of a former slave set free. So Villers-Cotterêts, in a way, very much contributed to this history. And this is where we decided to set the Institute for the French language. And it will cover the French language coming from all around, everywhere, the Caribbean, here, Louisiana, Africa, because the sun never set on the French language, and it will be a place where artists and everyone can come. So I also meant to tell you from New Orleans that Villers-Cotterêts is a link, a bond, and this is where we will be hosting the International Summit of Francophonie in 2024. And let me tell you, to conclude by telling you the reason why your city and Louisiana have something unique. It is something of a treasury for France and the French language. Because here, once and for all, you decided that a catastrophe would be fruitful. On this land, there was slavery, and we have about a responsibility in that. And then came some major court decisions that were triggered by strong initiatives taken by activists. But in the end, the men and women here decided that they should never give in to what is a source of divide. And what is interesting, if you look at New Orleans and Louisiana, is that any catastrophe, any tragedy was a source of something different. The Creole, the Native Americans, the Black Indians, and I was referring to this exhibition in Paris at the moment, they all contributed. And they all decided that the French language that was at some point that of some of the slaves would become also a language of culture. And Victor Hugo was being published here in the 1860s and you've chosen the future and the genuine face of France and of the French language, the face of a nation that is open, and that which every time history bites, decides not to give up, to build something, to continue. So I think in this respect, there is something we're all longing for in these times of divide or risk of divide. And when I look at the unique history of New Orleans, that belongs both to the history of France and of that of the United States and to the history of Africa as well. It is not the history of white people or black people. It is the history of men and women of all colors that did not speak the same language, that did not have the same religion, the same faith, but who in the end got together for one single reason: to build a common future and build together something beautiful and strong. So thank you for that, because it is an example of a path we're hoping for, a path that can be followed. So long live Louisiana, long live France, and let the good times roll.
residents in the room. The camera stays on until we leave. I mean, if you gotta get down, then it's fine. This is just in case.
Sauf si t'as pas envie, hein. Moi je veux pas te... Ouais. Moi ça m'est complètement égal. Je fais le livre de Washington avec... je sais pas. Bastien il était content, il m'a dit que ça lui avait vachement pour faire des trucs.
So will you be a
Parce que
Democrat?
j'ai pas compris.
At least he knows
Bon,
what they
non,
want.
tu fais quoi
Yeah. Gotcha.
Ok. Mais tu fais quoi? Je dis tu dors.
C'est toi qui le fais de moi.